Howdy folks, and welcome back to Casual Saturday with the mighty Jingles, and today we have something just a little bit different for you. About a month ago I was invited down to London as a guest of Creative Assembly, where I and a whole bunch of other YouTubers and games journalists were taking part in a preview day for Warhammer II Total War at an old Victorian sewage station. I thought it was very brave of Creative Assembly to be hosting a press day for their new game in a place that's, not to put too fine a point on it, very strongly associated with shit. But once we got inside, it all became clear. You see, this wasn't just a press day for Warhammer II Total War. They were also doing the unveil of the fourth playable race in Warhammer II Total War. The Skaven. Probably the worst kept secret in all of video game history. Everybody knew the Skaven were going to be the fourth playable race, but, well, the choice of location suddenly made sense. You see, the Skaven, for those of you who aren't fans of the Warhammer fantasy universe, are Chaos rat men. So, rats, sewage, refuse, yeah. I get it now. Shortly after, a very unfortunate games developer had been dragged away to be consumed by the ravenous servants of the Horned God, we descended into the depths of the pumping station and were treated to a very atmospheric presentation on what we can expect to see when Warhammer II Total War goes live on the 28th of September. And then, because Creative Assembly didn't expect us to just take their word for it, we were given access to a preview build of the Skaven campaign and a couple of quest battles to amuse ourselves for a couple of hours. A couple of the developers were also on hand to answer some questions, and they were jolly nice chaps indeed. Okay, well, we're here at the, I'm not entirely sure what this place is called. Where are we? Crossness Engines?
Crossness Engines or something, yeah. So I think it's like, yeah.
It's a very, very old Victorian sewage works.
Apparently it's very famous.
Yes.
Apparently so it's a lot of history associated with it.
And we're here to take a look, well, primarily for me at least, the campaign game of Warhammer II Total War. And I'm here with two of the developers, and we are...
my name's Andy Hall, I'm the lead writer.
Okay.
And my name's Greg Alston, and I'm the lead animator.
Right, nice to meet you both. My primary question was to do with the integration between those of us who already own and play Warhammer Total War 1 and what we can expect from Warhammer Total War 2 as a benefit of having both games at the same time.
Okay, well the good news is that the games will merge together. So we start on our release date, which I think is September the 28th, and you'll be able to play the Vortex campaign with our 4 new races, and then our first patch will between 2 weeks and a month.
I don't think the date's been but
no, there's
soon
no
after.
date,
Yeah.
but that first patch will merge the 2 maps together, and you'll be able to play a grand campaign. So all the races that you already own, and that includes any DLC races like the Wood Elves and Beastmen, you will interact with all the Warhammer 2 races, and you'll be able to play no narrative in the grand campaign. You're going to create your own story. You're going to try and take over the Warhammer world with all the and fighting all the different races that we've made so far.
That's the great thing is, because you've got all these great fantastic races and things, Warhammer 2 we're really kind of conscious to give personalities to each race. So it's not like a reclone, so like each new race, like the Lizardmen will have a completely new set of animation sets. We really try to get their personality so they look different, so when you're playing against them you can see a visual difference between against the kind of the old.
I have noted, because I've been, in preparation for this, I've been playing a lot of Warhammer 1.
Yes.
And I tried the Bretonnian campaign, and I thought, just like the Empire. No.
No,
They've got more in common with the Orcs than the Empire. They've just got to keep fighting, otherwise they start stockpiling all of these negative traits.
Yeah.
I think these races are even more exotic. So Warhammer 1, you had the Dwarfs and the Empire, etc. And yes, you've got the Orcs as well, but they're coming from kind of a very typical fantasy archetype that you've probably seen in other IPs, But here we've got Skaven and Lizardmen,
yeah, and the
which
elves.
is kind of unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, the elves. You probably may have seen elves
May have
before.
seen elves elsewhere, but I can't
definitely
think
the
of
Skaven.
any other intellectual property that has rat men.
Not to our extent, anyway. And I think that for you especially,
Yeah,
isn't it? There's some really interesting
when
stuff.
you're kind of trying to animate something kind of completely new, you're trying to reference things, and so we had to take our own kind of take on it. Especially Lizardmen, we didn't want to take this kind of upright kind of look.
Yeah.
We wanted to kind of slouch and to behave very much animalistic, very like a lizard behaves, so very kind of hunched over.
Yeah.
To really give that kind of different look, but there was nothing else really we could really reference. Especially when you got dinosaurs riding dinosaurs, it's kind of an unusual concept.
It's all getting very. I've forgotten the name. Inception on us now, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we had some cues, didn't we? For the Skaven especially, because they're so unique. Like in their army books, in the original source material, there's a couple of great paragraphs that we both read
yeah,
about
it was fantastic.
their nervous energy, how they're constantly moving. They've got this mega high.
Metabolic rate.
Yeah, metabolic rate.
I noticed that when I was watching the Skaven Hero and Lords, they're constantly twitching and fidgeting and looking around.
Constantly nervous.
If you look at all of the idols, you've got one of them that starts gnawing on
Yes.
his arm because you start to get hungry. Because you look at the lore books, it's like they eat each other, you know, if they're weak
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're trying to incorporate that kind of personality in the animations. Kind of, so a lot of the animations we just read the lore book, the army books, and just try and get any kind of little tidbits like that and trying to bring it in. Because the key thing is to really get that personality. Each race you're playing is different. Even with the elves, if you play the high elves and the dark elves, it's not the same kind of animation set. There's a slight difference to it. So like the high elves, we're going to go for a very kind of, they're very trained, very drilled, you know, it's very clinical. With the dark
Prim and
elves,
proper.
yeah, so the dark elves come from the same family, but if there was a Geneva Conventions, they wouldn't follow it kind of thing, you know.
They tend to frenzy a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very excitable. Yes, I'm looking at the. Speaking about the different mechanics for each races as well, and that's something that you already established in Warhammer 1.
Yes.
With the food and loyalty mechanics for the Skaven.
Yeah.
And again, it ties in well with the lore because, you know, the mass armies of cheap expendable troops, they're going to need a lot of food to sustain them.
They do.
And I've already encountered loyalty problems with some of my lesser leaders.
Yeah,
I
that's
had to go and
pain.
kill them.
Yeah.
Be very careful not to give them an army that's too big that they could pose a threat.
Exactly, yeah, and that's one of the clever things. And totally in keeping the law, the more successful your satellite armies are, the more chance they're going to turn
They're going
on
to think,
you.
I'm doing a better job than the guy in charge.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's I'm looking forward to playing the Skaven. I think they're probably going to be the ones I'll be starting off with when Warhammer 2 comes out.
Yes, yeah.
But I'm keen to have a quick go of the quest battle for the Dark Elves as well, because they were one of my first Warhammer Fantasy battle armies when I was a misspent youth playing in Games Workshops on Saturday afternoons. So yeah, I'm quite excited and really looking forward, and thanks for having me here.
Yeah, no,
No
thank you
worries.
for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Careful of
Thank you.
murderous prowess. With
Yes.
the Dark Elves. They, once they get going.
Oh yes, okay, I'll bear that in mind. Thanks, guys.
No worries.
Thank you.
Right, well, as I said, we had several hours available to us throughout the course of the day to just sit down at one of the dozens of PCs available and play the game, so let's do it. The campaign in Warhammer 2 is called the Eye of the Vortex. Each of the four principal races, the Lizardmen, the High Elves, the Dark Elves and the Skaven, are going to be gathering resources to perform a sequence of rituals as they fight for ultimate control of the great vortex that swirls above the elven homeland of Ulthuan. Ulthuan being just one of the four continents available in the Grand Campaign in Warhammer 2. You have Ulthuan, Lustria, Nagaroth, and the Southlands. I'm playing as Lord Queek Headtaker, who's a legendary lord of the Skaven. The Skaven have a number of unique gameplay mechanics specific to them alone. Their settlements are built below ground. Other factions are going to see them just as ruins on the surface. This allows you to develop complex settlements completely out of sight, building up powerful garrisons and armies totally hidden from the view of other enemies. Other factions will only become aware of your settlements if they scout them with a hero, or they move an army to the ruins and attempt to perform an action there, such as colonising them. So if you're playing as one of the other races, be very, very wary of sending a small army to colonise very innocent looking ruins that are located just outside of your territory, because if you move an army onto them, there's a fairly decent chance, if the Skaven are in play, that you might get your ass handed to you by a horde of clan rats come boiling out of the supposedly unoccupied settlement. So this hidden settlement mechanic allows the Skaven to build a huge under-empire right under the noses of the other factions. There's a new resource that you will have to manage as a Skaven player, and this is food, because the Skaven are ravenous eaters and they have to constantly eat to maintain their energy. Your food stocks are represented by the bar at the top of the screen, and you gather food through winning battles, sacking settlements, raiding enemy territory, and building key buildings in your settlements with farming support. The bonuses for having high food stores are pretty impressive. They allow your settlements to grow faster, they give higher morale to your armies, and better public order across your provinces. On the other hand, the penalties for having low food stocks can cripple you. Let's just say that the Skaven are not above eating each other if they get hungry enough. Skaven armies also have a unique battlefield ability. It's called the Menace Below. What this basically does is it allows you to summon a unit of clan rats which burst out of the ground anywhere on the battlefield. If you find that those pesky high elven archers are slowing down the advance of your troops by slaughtering your cheap expendable armies of Skaven slaves at long range, then just pop the Menace Below and bite their faces off while you move the rest of your army into position. Skaven armies on the campaign map also get a unique stance. This is called the Stalking stance, and well, it's very, very similar to setting an army in ambush stance, which you can do for any other race, but the Skaven can do it while on the move. So not only are Skaven settlements hidden from the eyes of other factions, but their armies can be as well. Now, it's not quite as overpowered as it sounds. You obviously can't move as far when in stalking stance as you can under normal campaign movement. And you can always be detected by an enemy army if you get too close to them, but it's still a very, very powerful situational tool for your army movement on the campaign map. Skaven armies have an army roster like no other. They're pretty weak to begin with. They can only really field lots of very, very lightly armed and armoured super cheap units like Skaven slaves and clan rats, which make up for the early lack of specialisation with huge numbers of cheap expendable troops. Now they require a lot of food to maintain these large armies of slaves, so it's another very good reason to play at the Skaven strengths. Bide your time, remain hidden, and build huge armies before bursting forth in a squealing maelstrom of whiskers, teeth, and warp lightning. But the real military showpieces are their higher tier units. With the right buildings and technologies, you can recruit very powerful units. Warp lightning cannons, doom wheels, hell pit abominations. I have no idea what they are. Well, I do. You might not, but trust me, they're as powerful as they sound. They've got this blend of mad science, ethics-free medical enhancement, and total horror, which make the Skaven one of the most popular and colourful races in the whole of the Warhammer Fantasy Battles universe. It's not all just about the Skaven, however. The Skaven are just one of 4 new races playable in Warhammer II Total War. You have the Skaven, you have the Lizard Men, you have the High Elves, and you have the Dark Elves, and there are several new features in the campaign game which are unique to Warhammer Total War 2. When the game is released, initially you're going to be playing the Eye of the Vortex Grand Campaign. The Great Vortex is basically a huge magical tornado that roils above the Isle of the Dead in the centre of Ulthuan, the home continent of the High Elves. The Vortex was forged in the past by, well, who cares? It's just there and it needs to be fought for control of. That's all you really need to know. So why does everybody suddenly have their niggers in a twist over the Great Vortex? Well, there's a comet in the sky above the world and it's causing instability in the Great Vortex. Some of the races want to stabilise the vortex, High Elves and Lizard Men for example. Certain of the other races want to take advantage and cause even greater instability, the Dark Elves and the Skaven. And each race will have to conduct a series of rituals, which can only be conducted at certain locations of power scattered throughout the world, not all of which are going to be under your control or even close to your territory. And whichever faction succeeds in completing its rituals, thus enabling the final battle in the Grand Campaign and winning that final battle, wins the Grand Campaign. So, strategies that may have worked for you in Warhammer in the past, turtling up and just biding your time, are not necessarily going to be quite as fruitful in this new campaign in Warhammer 2. Sit around on your arse for too long, biding your time, other factions are going to complete their rituals and they're going to steal a march on you. You can, of course, disrupt the enemy rituals. They have to take place in certain locations, and they can only conduct the rituals in those locations if they control them. So there's a lot of backwards and forwards, to and fro on the campaign map, as well as the intricacies of the tactical battles. Now, when the game goes live on the 28th of September, shortly afterwards, and when I say shortly afterwards, I mean a couple of weeks, not a couple of months, Creative Assembly are releasing their first major content patch. And this is great news for people who already own Warhammer 1, because what that content patch is going to do is it's going to combine the two games into one. It's going to unify all of the territory available in Warhammer 1 that you've been fighting over for the last year or so, if you play the game, with all of the new territories available in Warhammer 2 into one massive, huge-scale grand campaign map. Now, what that doesn't mean is that you're going to be able to play the Eye of the Vortex Warhammer 2 story campaign with any of the old races from Warhammer 1, but it does mean that all of the races that you currently have access to in Warhammer 1, including all of the DLC races, can be used in a huge campaign battle that spans the entire existing world. And this is just part 2 of what's projected to be a 3-part trilogy of games set in the Warhammer universe. This is only going to keep getting better when Warhammer 3 comes out. So, Warhammer 2 Total War, 28th of September. Mark the date in your diaries, Warhammer fans, and that's when it becomes available. And if you pre-order the game, or you buy it in its first week of release, you also get the Norsca race as DLC, completely free of charge. So I'm anticipating that my productivity may slip just a little. Funnily enough, by a complete coincidence, of course, right around about the 28th of September, I am very much looking forward to this game. I had a lot of fun playing as the Skaven at the press day about a month ago. They're definitely one of my favourite races so far. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I hope you've enjoyed this preview of Warhammer 2 Total War by Creative Assembly. As always, folks, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.